Hey, what can I get started for you?
What do you recommend?
Having a life plan, health insurance, putting aside money for taxes, using condoms? Oh, especially condoms. If you don't use them, you could end up with one of those things that you get for life. Like a child. What can I get you? Drunk? Barbarians! Welcome to episode 45 of Behind Bars, Cocktails and Wasted Nights. I'm your host, Greg. I've been working as a bartender for over 20 years, and over those years, I've seen a lot. My goal here is to share some of those high and low lights with you. Quick warning, this podcast contains sex, drugs, and some language that isn't suitable for anyone under 21 years of age, so you gotta have some ID. Before we get started, you'll need a drink. For this episode, I interviewed Chance the author, who, before authoring and becoming a star of the silver screen on a binge-worthy contemporary cult classic, has dabbled professionally in this life of liquids, and he provided his signature recipe. And folks, it's hilarious. This one comes to you all the way from Paradise Falls and Casino. Fill a blender halfway with ice. I know, you already hate it. Add 2 ounces of Malibu rum, 1 ounce of blue carousel, 1/2 ounce of peach schnapps, a splash of Midori, and 2 ounces of OJ. Blend and serve to the all-inclusive vacationers. He calls it the D spot, and I think the D stands for diabetes. Diabetes. I'll have to ask Wilford Brimley. Any hoozlebees, if by chance you don't have Chance's ingredients available, by now I know you have mine at the ready. 1 hefty slug of blue agave silver goodness and a girthy and altitudinous anthill of Peruvian marching powder into your face hoover. There. Now don't you look and feel gorgeous? I know I do. Okay, folks, before we get started, I need to preface what follows with this. Chance and I each grapple with the kind of ADD that rivals that of a moth trapped in a closet with blinking Christmas lights. So it's a bit all over the road, but stay the course and you'll hear about a life that's trodden its own strange path that we all follow. Plus we got really fucked up. Anyway, with that, let's meet Chance the author. All right, everybody, welcome to episode 45 of Behind Bars, Cocktails and Wasted Nights. I'm here with my buddy Chance, the author.
What up, what up?
What's up, Chance? How are you?
Good, how are you, man?
Good, man. Before we even get started, I got to tell you, you're the first guest. You brought me gifts. You brought me a blacklight, lithograph, would you say? Is it?
It's a blacklight poster.
Poster with the Mad Hatter.
The Mad Hatter.
Where's that coming from?
From Place of Love.
I
So first of all, I've listened to your show for a little bit, and your guests are awesome. And I just thought, you know what, yeah, Greg, you do solids for everyone, so why not bring you something?
I love it. And it's like when you get a toy without the batteries, that sucks. But you actually brought me 3 blacklight bulbs to go with it.
2, but yeah,
oh, okay.
Close enough.
2, yeah. Sorry, we pre-gamed, and so my math is off.
My math, all episode listener, I'll be off, just so we're clear.
So I met Chance. He comes into the bar, and at the time I was writing my book, and he had just finished his book, and you were writing another book.
Can I tell you my side first?
Yeah, tell me your side.
So randomly I asked, that's one of your bartenders, I was like, hey, I got something stupid to ask you. It's kind of slow. I asked her something about it was my first book. And she's like, oh, fuck, you need to talk to Greg. And I was like, okay, who's Greg? And she's like, oh, yeah, he wrote a book and stuff. So sure as shit, you came up not even an hour later. And she's like, oh, yeah, it's Greg. And that's honestly the first time I met you.
Oh, okay. All right. So, yeah, similar. Then we bonded over that, writing books. And you gave me a bunch of great advice on, how to market and everything. It was great.
Right. Don't market. Just fucking be yourself.
Yeah. And I read yours. You read mine. And I read yours. And you had some fucking crazy stories in there, man.
Yes, sir.
One of the ones I want to bring up, basically, you're lucky to be alive right now. You're lucky to be here.
Yeah.
You almost fell victim to a serial killer.
That's okay, but an asterisk, right? It is a true story, but can we prove it?
All the circumstantial evidence points to, yeah, that was him.
Agreed. And what's funny, and I figured you probably would chat about this story, but I got some updates.
Okay.
Kind of cool updates.
Let's let the listeners know what I'm talking about. Give them some context.
All right, so...
How old were you?
This was back when I was in third grade. So I was probably at that time, 9-year-old. And my buddy and I, and he was same grade. So well, poor Jim flunked. So he was, grade.
Same age, different grade. Got it.
Couple times.
Yeah.
But
he has a circle of paper and crayons.
Super awesome kid. And his little brother, who actually was, that point in time kindergartner. So what was he, 5? He would come down to us and we'd go to something called open gym. And for the listeners out there under the age of 40, open gym was something that we went to regularly in small communities where we'd just go on down to our elementary school and we'd go play with our friends. We'd do, butts up, volleyball, basketball, whatever you want to do, right?
Right.
And so
you could pick your class?
Yeah.
Oh, man, dodgeball every day, or the parachute games for me.
You could pick the class, but honestly, I mean, everybody kind of did. And the adults, the 2 adults that were there back then, they would, regulate and make sure there's no fights or anything like that. But past that, it's basically 3 hours of free babysitting for your parents, right?
Nice.
Which, God bless it, I'm a father now, and as a parent, I look for those opportunities.
So you're in third grade.
Yeah.
You have open gym, and
So here in Montana, sorry, listener, I'm from Montana, little town Missoula. The thing was, just because how high north they are, in the summer, there's light almost till 11 p.m., right?
Oh, wow.
So it's not Alaska, but it's
like,
right?
Yeah.
It messes with your schedule. And then, unfortunately, in winter.
In the winter, it's like Finland.
Yeah.
A lot of suicide.
Well, you're from Boston.
Yeah. But it's
right?
not like up there, like not that far up.
If you're far north. So in winter, usually by at certain times, it'd be 5 p.m. and it'd be dark, right? So we go down to the open gym and we're hanging out there and we go late. And that was back in the day when parents didn't pick you up. We just walked the 4 blocks back home. But unfortunately, when we're walking home, it's a very unlit Montana suburban road. We had to walk up that way, and Jim's little brother was running around us as he did because he's a little annoying guy. And he at one point stopped right when we walked out of the gym, kind of on the road, and we got about 3 blocks to get up to the house. He stopped and he's like, "Hey, who's that running across the road?" I'm like, "Dude, shut up, Brian, get out of here." Kick the little kid, right? You don't know anything. It's a fact. We're like, shut up. And we looked down the street, didn't see anything. But about another block and a half, sure thing, little brother's running around us. He stops and he's like, "Hey, you guys don't see that guy running around." But we looked and kind of focused our eyes because it's very dark. And sure enough, there's we see an adult hunkered down. There's kind of a rundown duplex on this side and then a house that's dark on this side with a huge tree. We saw him. And so Jim and I are like, "Oh, that's got to be our dad, our
trying to
buddy's
scare
dad.
you or something."
Trying to scare us, right?
Oh my God, this is terrifying. Yeah,
right.
Go ahead.
It's just the age where parents just did that. But
It's very Stranger Things.
yeah. And so as we're approaching, we're yelling out, "Hey, we see you!" Because the guy's he's crouched and goes from one end to the other, probably 3 times by the time we get up to him. Right? We're like, "Hey, we see you!" And so, sure enough, we get up to let's call it 100 feet or so, 150. "Hey," and we're calling out our friend's dad's name. "Hey," and sure enough, this guy's got a flashlight, so he clicks on the flashlight and he's heading towards us. And little brother's kind of still running around us until it gets to about 100 feet. Little brother takes off and goes up a side street, right? And there's some houses up this side street. And we're like, "What the?" And so Jim and I walk forward and we're like, "Hey," still yelling the guy's name, or, our friend's dad, thinking it's him. And about 50 feet, we both figured out, dude, yeah, we don't know him. Not that I really remember exact details, but enough to be like, "Nah, dude, that's not anyone I know." So I take off. Jim had already taken off in front of me. Of course, his little brother was way up ahead. And where his little brother was going to, we had a cop on the side street. And he knew that there was a cop because the cop car was already there. And so as we're running, this guy takes off after us, right? And we're like, "We don't know you, dude." And so we're running and we're up the side street. And I just remember yelling, I'm like, "Help, help." And there's this lone nurse, right?
You were yelling help?
I was yelling help.
Okay.
My buddy Jim was yelling too. So you pass, I remember, because there's really only a couple lights on the street, right? It's very, if you can think of any fucking scary 70s movie, Halloween.
It's like a Stephen King town.
Oh, dude, right? It's so horrific. We're there, and we're little brother's already at the cop's house. But I'm yelling, "Help, help." Sure enough, the guy stops behind me as he's running, right? And a nurse was unloading her car, and she kind of saw it, and maybe he saw her, but she's like, hey, what's going on? We run by her, and we're like, hey, someone's chasing us. And I could just see the bottom of his, like pretty much jeans down, right? And he had like on white slacks. Cop comes out, hey, what's going on? We tell him. He's like, okay, let me get the keys. He comes the keys. Then he drives us home.
Just to recap, you and your buddy Jim, who got held back, was the smart one and actually got help, really. And then
But he turned out to be brilliant. It was Elon Musk.
Yeah. And you guys are running from this guy who's chasing you. He's wearing white pants.
Yeah.
And you got a cop, you got a nurse involved that's going to come to the rescue. What happened?
We get to my house, and my mom answered us. She's like, what the hell? I'm sorry, officer. What? And he's like, no, they were scared. Someone's chasing them. She's like, oh, goddamn, I know. I told them to stop watching those horror movies. Those goddamn horror movies. That's the moral of the story. But the other moral is that, it was probably 10 years after that whole episode, right? There was a family reunion going on. We all have a couple drinks because the legal drinking age back then was 12 in Montana.
Yeah, because you got to be able to drive the car.
You do. Yeah, you got to be able to drive mom and dad.
You got to drive the tractors and shit and the cars.
We all sit down, and this story I'm about to tell you turns out to be like 2 years before the story that I just told you, that I'm just hearing now,
okay.
Right? 10 years after my ordeal, right?
Okay.
Babysitter's like, hey, I'll give you a ride. But she's like, oh my God, it's a 70s porn. Let's not do that this time.
It's a current porn. It's all babysitters and step family. But anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, right. So,
not that I know. I just heard my brother telling me.
Brought to you by Pornhub. So.
X-hamster.
X-video. Moving on. She said,
you're married. When do you get to watch that?
Oh, shit. Weekly.
All right. Weekly. All right.
Yeah. There's,
I'm more of a bi-daily kind of person.
Well, I'm just a whenever at this point in time. It feels good.
Do it. That's my motto. Actually, I'll try anything once, a lot. But anyway, go ahead. So
that's a bumper sticker. And she notices there's someone behind her. She notices a couple walks by her, right? And they keep going. She goes about half block in. Sure enough, this person turns on the street. She's like, well, that's kind of weird. It's 11.
Is he gaining on
20.
her?
He is gaining on her at this point.
Oh, God,
in time.
it's terrifying.
Yeah, it is. It's like a horror movie.
Fuck.
It's just like kind of what I said earlier.
And if you start running, you always trip, and they catch up to you walking.
Well, and the story is she did start running. Because as she went faster, he went faster, kind of, and then ran after. What he didn't know is that she only had like 2 houses into our house, right? I went out, I looked out there, and there's the guy. He's smoking. And she goes, the thing about your story, when you looked at him and under light, she goes, it's the white pants. She goes, I remember Amber falling, and I remember those white pants. And so she goes, I told Dad, but of course he was already dead drunk asleep. And my mom came out, and I can't see anybody.
And then we found out there was someone that was active in the area at that time.
So I looked up like serial killers in Missoula, and Missoula did a good job at hiding it. And listener, you might not even have ever heard this, right? So there was a famed, if you want to call it that, that's a terrible
infamous
name, infamous serial killer that came out of Missoula, and his name is Wayne Nance, and he had multiple kills. They're pretty sure he had way more. He's one of I think 3 serial killers that were ever killed by their prey. By their victims, yeah.
Nice. So it's a happy ending,
yeah.
kind of. That's terrifying. I'm a true crime fanatic, so when you told me this story, when I read that in your book, I was fucking blown away, dude. You dodged a giant bullet.
Okay, so here's where the asterisk comes in, right? He ended up getting ER'd to my mom's hospital. And so my mom, who was always on call back in the day, remember the pagers, beep, beep, beep?
Yeah. Absolutely. 911. I need drugs. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, listener. Let me back up one step there. So that was, 10 years.
There's more than one listener.
Into listeners.
Thank you. There's at least 2.
When I told that story, and my sister told that story, my mom kind of got ashed face, and this is my mom, this is my, it's
the nurse
mom doesn't give,
seen it all,
right? Yes,
and you made her go ashen.
Yeah, and I'm like, Mom, what do you know? And she's like, oh my God. She goes, well, I operated on Wayne Nance the night he died, and she goes, the one thing I remember is that, and you can look up. There's multiple versions of the story, but in the story, Wayne has half a head or close to half a head, which as a serial killer, you probably should at the end. But he's there on my mom's operating table. She goes, the thing I remember is there's so much blood on, top, chest, whatever. She goes, but there's only flecks of it below. And she goes, I remember he had on white pants.
Whoa.